Ever find yourself like really feeling up a shirt in the store? Like, is this going to last more than one wash?
It's all about the feel, right? But someone's got to make sure those quality standards are actually, well, standard.
And that, my friends, is where Textile Quality Technicians step in. Today, we're diving deep into their world. And for those of you thinking about a career move, we're going to help you ace that interview.
We're talking nailing those common questions, showing them what you're made of.
So our sources paint a picture of this role being pretty hands-on, right?
Yeah.
A lot of lab work.
Oh, yeah, all about testing. Tensile strength, color fastness, making sure that fabric can go the distance.
The career guide even mentioned using Six Sigma methodologies. Sounds kind of intense.
It's about having a system, a process. But you know what else is important? How you talk about it in an interview. Let's say they hit you with the classic. Tell me about your experience with quality control and assurance.
I'd probably launch into every job I've had where, like, something had to be good.
And they'd probably stop you halfway. They've seen your resume, right? Now's the time to bring those bullet points to life.
So less laundry list of jobs, more like a story.
Exactly. Remember that time you had to, I don't know, implement a whole new quality control process? Or even just a time you really had to troubleshoot something?
So instead of, I know Six Sigma, it's, I use Six Sigma to save the day when.
Now you're getting it. Let's say, hypothetically, you were working in a factory, and suddenly, boom, fabric defects everywhere. Walk me through it.
Okay. I'd start analyzing data, right?
Yeah.
Look for patterns, maybe talk to other departments, find the root cause.
And what was the impact of all that detective work? Did those defects go down? Did production get back on track?
Got to quantify those results, show them I made a difference.
Music to an interviewer's ears. And here's a little something from the career guide. Don't just focus on the past, connect it to your future. Maybe that whole experience sparked an interest in a super specific type of quality control.
Showing them you're not just good. You're constantly learning and growing. Okay, I'm feeling slightly more ready for that question. But what about the ones that make you go, wait, why are they asking me this?
The curveballs, right. Those are all about how you think on your feet.
So like, how do you stay updated with the latest industry trends? I'll be honest, mostly social media. But that doesn't sound very impressive.
Social media is a start, sure, but they want to see you're actively seeking knowledge, not just scrolling through your feed.
So I could talk about that webinar I went to on sustainable textiles.
Bingo. And get specific. Did you learn about a new kind of fiber? A breakthrough in recycling tech.
It's not about knowing the buzzwords. It's about showing genuine interest, right? This is like a pop quiz on the entire textile industry.
And you haven't even gotten to the technical stuff yet. Speaking of which, ever used RoleCatcher to prep for interviews?
I've heard of it, but haven't had the chance to really dive in. What's so special about it?
Imagine this. A personal interview coach, available 24/7, powered by AI.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But how does it actually work?
You upload the job description, RoleCatcher analyzes it, figures out exactly what they're looking for.
And then what? Does it give me a script to memorize?
Even better, it's got this huge library of interview questions, including ones specifically for textile quality technicians.
So it's tailored to the actual job I want.
Precisely. And get this. It gives you feedback on your answers, like, hey, maybe try saying it this way.
Okay, that is pretty cool. So I can practice, get feedback, all in one place.
Plus, you can track your progress, even practice with video, talk about next-level prep.
Okay, that does sound pretty next level. But let's get back to those interview questions. Where were we? Right. RoleCatcher and AI and... Ooh. Hypothetically speaking, let's say an interviewer asks, can you describe a time you identified a quality issue and implemented a solution?
Oh, they love that one, don't they?
It's a classic for a reason. But I'm guessing in textiles, it's not about finding a typo on a website.
Definitely not. Think about the textile itself. The color's off, the yarn's all weird, something that'll really affect the final product.
So say I'm looking at this fabric, and the color just isn't matching the sample.
Yeah.
What then? Do I just shoot an email over to the dye supplier and, like, complain?
Hold your horses. You're a detective and a diplomat in this role. How would you get to the bottom of it?
Well, first, I'd check if the spectrophotometer's calibrated right, you know? Then maybe double-check the dye recipes, see if there were any changes in the last batch.
See, analytical skills, attention to detail. That's what they want to hear. And don't forget, communication's key too. Did you have to explain all this to the production team? Work with the supplier to find a solution.
Right, because finding the problem's only half the battle. You got to be able to actually fix it. And that means working with people.
Exactly. And here's where you sneak in those ISO standards we've talked about. Did those come into play at all during your investigation?
So even a question about problem solving becomes a chance to show I know my stuff when it comes to industry standards.
Bingo! It's all connected. Now, let's talk about those technical questions. The ones that can make or break a textile interview.
Like, what's your experience with textile testing and analysis? Where do I even begin with that one?
Please, don't list every single test you've ever done. Focus on the ones that actually matter for this job.
So if the job description mentions, say, tensile strength testing, I should have a good example ready.
Yes. And not just, I can do that test. Tell me a story. Maybe you used it to make sure some outdoor furniture fabric could handle, like, hurricane force winds.
Got to make it real. Show them why that test matters in the real world.
Because at the end of the day, textile quality is about making sure those products last, right? Like your favorite sweater that survived, what, 1,000 washes?
Exactly. Speaking of which, let's talk about a question that can trip people up. Can you describe your experience with ISO quality standards?
Ah, yes, those ISO standards.
For those who don't speak fluent ISO, can we do a quick refresh?
Think of it as the rule book for good quality. No matter where you are in the world, if something's made to ISO standards, you know it's legit.
So if you don't know ISO, you're kind of lost in the textile world.
Pretty much. But don't just say, I'm familiar with ISO standards. Get specific. Which ones do you know? ISO 9001, for example, that's a big one for quality management.
Showing them you're not just name-dropping, you know your stuff.
Yeah.
But what if I'm still kind of new to this, haven't had a chance to, implement ISO standards on a grand scale?
That's okay. Focus on what you have done. Even if it's following a standardized testing procedure, you're showing you understand the importance of those benchmarks.
So it's about demonstrating that I'm eager to learn, even if I'm not the one writing the company's rulebook yet.
Exactly. This industry is always changing, gotta be ready to adapt. Which brings us to another fun one. How do you ensure consistent quality across different production runs?
Ooh, that sounds tricky. Like, how do you make sure every single batch is perfect?
This is where you show off your inner detective and your data skills. Ever heard of statistical process control, SPC?
Rings a bell. Vaguely.
It's all about monitoring and controlling those little variations that can happen during production.
So instead of just checking the final product, you're looking for problems all along the way.
You got it. Think back to a time you used SPC. Maybe you were in charge of those control charts, monitoring fabric weight, thread tension, you name it.
Textile Quality Technician. Part scientist, part detective, part data analyst.
Don't forget stylish. But seriously, don't be afraid to use those technical terms. Control charts, Pareto charts. Shows them you've been there, done that.
It's a balancing act, right?
Yeah.
Seeking the lingo, but making it clear for everyone.
You're getting it. And hey, if you ever need a little extra help, you know where to find us. RoleCatcher's always there to help you fine-tune those answers.
It's like having a whole team of textile experts in your pocket. So we've talked about the technical stuff, the detective work. But there's more to being a textile quality technician, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just what you know, it's how you are. Those soft skills, they're huge. Communication, teamwork.
Right, because nobody wants to work with a robot, no matter how good they are at spotting fabric flaws.
Exactly. And interviewers know that. So let's say they ask, describe a time you had to work effectively as part of a team. Classic.
Wow, classic. But in textiles, it's not just about, finishing a group project on time.
Nope. Think bigger. Cross-department collaboration, designers, engineers, maybe even the folks on the production floor.
Okay, so I could talk about a time I worked with a design team to come up with, totally new quality standards for a brand new fabric.
Now you're talking. You've got teamwork, you've got textile knowledge, all in one answer.
It's all connected, right? But what about those questions that seem totally off topic, like, what's your greatest weakness? Who wants to air their dirty laundry in an interview?
It's a tough one, for sure. But here's the thing. They're not trying to make you look bad. They want to see self-awareness.
So not, I'm a perfectionist, because that's what everyone says.
Exactly. Pick something real, but something you're working on. Maybe you're not a great public speaker, but you've joined Toastmasters to get better.
Turning that weakness into, a self-improvement project.
Exactly. It shows you're not afraid to grow, to learn. And speaking of important qualities, let's talk about attention to detail. Big one for textile quality technicians.
Oh, yeah. One little mistake can mean a whole lot of bad sweaters out there in the world.
And nobody wants that. So be ready for it. Describe a time you had to pay close attention to detail.
Okay, so I need a good story. A time I basically saved the day with my eagle eyes.
Exactly. Did you catch a mistake no one else saw? Walk them through it. What did you see? How did you know it was wrong? And what would have happened if you hadn't caught it?
Because it's not just about being detail-oriented, it's about understanding the impact of those details, right?
Exactly. And maybe you can even tie in those Six Sigma principles again, shows them you're thinking about quality on a deeper level.
Okay, so whether it's teamwork, problem-solving, or just having a keen eye, got to relate it back to textiles.
Always makes you a more compelling candidate. Oh, and speaking of compelling, we can't forget about salary expectations.
Ooh, yeah, the money talk. Always a bit awkward.
It doesn't have to be. Do your research, know the salary range for this kind of role in your area. Websites like RoleCatcher can help with that.
So I'm not just pulling a number out of thin air.
Exactly. And when they ask about your expectations, don't just blurt it out. Connect it to your value. You could say something like, based on my experience with quality control and my track record of, say, reducing defects, I'm looking for a salary that reflects my contributions.
So it's not just about what I want, it's about what I'm worth?
Exactly. Be confident, be prepared to negotiate a bit.
Okay, got it. Ready to talk numbers.
That's the spirit. And remember, even if the salary's not perfect, there might be other perks, other opportunities.
It's all part of the big picture, right? Well, folks, it looks like we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of textile quality technicians.
It's been a pleasure chatting all things textiles with you.
And to all our listeners, remember, landing that dream job, it's totally doable. Do your research, practice those interview skills, and don't be afraid to let your passion for quality shine through. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep reaching for those career goals.